That word that I was trying to think of in the last video is entropy. And entropy is the observation that everything in nature goes from order to disorder and from high energy to low energy. In other words, the natural way things go is out of existence, not into existence. It's unnatural for things to be created. So we see that there was a creation. And the Bible claims that this creation was done by God, that God created the earth, us, animals, everything around us. The things that we see, God created them. Now, we don't know what God is. And if God is the intelligence that created everything, he doesn't consist of what he created, but what he created evidently consists of him. In other words, let's see, this is kind of hard to explain. There's things that we will never understand. We're trying to get a grasp of what God is. There is a creation. God, the Bible claims that God is the creator. The word that is used for God all through Genesis is Elohim. And Elohim is a plural word. Now, we believe that there's one God. The Bible tells us, hear, O Israel, the Lord our God is one Lord. There's one, now the Lord would be like the ruler, the owner, boss. Okay, so there's one main purpose, reason, intelligence behind everything. Okay, and that's what we're calling God. But there's a plural word. This is peculiar, isn't it? Jesus tells us that God is spirit. We know that God's a creator, and if we believe the Bible at all, if we believe in Jesus, if we believe that he was an honest man and that he's telling the truth, he's saying that God is spirit. Now, the word spirit, there's several words that are translated into our English as spirit, but they all have a core basic idea that a spirit is a motivational energy. A spirit is invisible. Spirit is always invisible. You can't see a spirit. But it causes effect here in the physical world. For instance, you look at the tree and the waves are wiggling around, and we don't see anything moving the leaves. It's a spirit. There's a spirit moving the leaves. Now, the spirit moving we have another word for the spirit moving the leaves, and we have that word we call wind. And it just in the same way, the same words that are translated as spirit are also translated as breath, puff, breeze, wind, that sort of thing. So this is what a spirit is. It's an invisible power that causes effects here in the physical world. Now, invisible powers, we're very, very familiar. Wind isn't the only invisible power. Jump up in the air. Why do you come back down? Some invisible power pulls you back down, right? So we've got all kinds of invisible powers. You turn on your electric light switch, and your light comes on. What's making that light go? The invisible power of the electricity, and you run an electric motor. You got the electromagnetic invisible power doing all this. So it's kind of hard to understand things that we can't see. And all we can see of spirit is the effect, the thing that the spirit causes to happen. We see that, and then we can make deductions from what we observe. So let's look at a particular uh, spirit here, the spirit of magnetism. You take a piece of paper and you put your magnet underneath the paper, and you don't see any magnetism. It's an invisible power, right? It's a spirit. The spirit of magnetism is underneath that. And you take a little jar full of iron filings and you sprinkle it on the paper, and what happens? I mean, probably everyone has done that little experiment to see what magnetism does. These iron filings all get organized. They come into order by an invisible spirit that we don't see. There's an invisible, and all this stuff is being created into a pattern. This isn't random. It isn't luck. It isn't uh, some kind of evolution type thing, you know. They didn't just randomly, spontaneously fall in a certain order like these idiotic evolutionists believe, right? There's an invisible power ordering these iron filings on the paper. The invisible power is magnetism, and so we see something about invisible powers. We see something about spirits here, and we see something about order and creation in all of this. So as I was saying, the word that's translated in our Bible, English Bible, as God is Elohim. And the word Elohim basically means mighty ones or powerful ones. And so this is giving us an idea about God. Now we're developing this picture of God here. Now God is a spirit. God is a creator. God has an intelligence that puts order to things. You know, there's a reason. And order comes from God, right? And the Elohim are the ones that are translated as God. So how do we think of the Elohim and God? We look at the magnetic fields, the iron filings, how they line up with these fields. This invisible power, the magnetism, is traveling through these magnetic, not the magnet, they're traveling through the iron filings. Now, any of us has played with magnets know that if you leave them there, these iron filings themselves become magnetized. They come into harmony with the magnet, and they get the power of the magnetism in themselves. And you can take an iron filing away from there and put it around a smaller iron filing, and it will have an effect on it. If it's another magnetic, you know, you'll have the north and south pole, and two norths will repel, and the opposites, north and south, will attract. And it's bringing order out of disorder, the opposite of entropy, creation instead of destruction. So that would, I said destruction because it's opposite of creation. So we're seeing creation here with this magnet. Now this is just a small example of an invisible spirit and a small example of a creative spirit. And so maybe this should give us an idea about God. That these Elohim, these mighty ones or powerful ones, have the Spirit of God moving through them. They're manifestations of the Spirit of God. physical manifestations of a spirit that is invisible, that isn't really a physical thing itself, but the physical things are created from it. So it's so reasonable to assume that God is, and that God is the creator, and it fits in with everything that we observe with nature, where this idiotic thing about just the dumb luck of putting, I saw an article someplace where it says that the odds of a simple DNA coming together by random association of just the different elements, in a pond of water, is not as likely as a hurricane hitting the local junkyard and throwing all the parts together into a fully functional passenger airplane. It's not going to happen. But we see things that do happen instead of imagining these idiotic things that are so absurd that we can't hardly imagine them. So assume the things that we don't know are like the things that we do know. We see the wind, we see the gravity, we see the magnet, we see invisible powers causing things to come into order. And we believe that God is, and that God is a creator or a bringer of order out of chaos or randomness. So this idea here now of the iron filings and how they line up, and God is one, yet the Elohim are many. Now, how are we going to understand that concept? Now, are you one? Is there just one of you? And I mean, what is the what are you as a some kind of a singularity? You know, okay. Well, what I'm trying to get at is you are. I have absolutely no idea. Millions or billions of living organisms or living creatures are joined together to create you. Now these creatures are living and dying, they're coming and going, but you are there, right? And God is there. The Elohim are physical beings, just like the iron filings, and they've got the Spirit of God moving through them, and God's will is done through them. This is an interesting thing. How would you like to be one of those iron filings? How would you like to be one of the Elohim? How would you like to have the power of God flowing through you? These are interesting ideas, interesting concepts. And the thing is, now we don't come anywhere near understanding God and what He is and everything, but we look at these little things and we try to generalize from them. In fact, as you read the Bible, this is not just a history book. The Bible is not a history book. These things are in there for lessons so that you will learn things from them. And God knows what's good. God knows what's right. It's God's will that should be done. Jesus, a human being, an iron filing like you and me, only an iron filing with the Spirit of God moving through him. He was a perfect manifestation of God. He was the iron filing that turned into every one of his molecules in him were in perfect alignment. That's what happens when a piece of iron is magnetized. They all get aligned with their positives in one direction, negatives side in the other direction, and so that the magnetism just flows perfectly through them. Jesus was a perfect manifestation of the Spirit of God, in that he didn't oppose God with himself. Okay? In Jesus' most difficult hour, when he knew he was about to be sacrificed, that he knew that he was about to be crucified, and awful, awful, death, painful, something that he didn't relish the idea. He didn't really want to suffer like that, as no human being would. But his attitude that we see in the prayer that's recorded, in the Gospels, his prayer was that not my will, but thine be done. He's in perfect alignment with this power going through him, with the power of God. Jesus was the fullness of the Godhead bodily, as it's put elsewhere in the New Testament. He was the perfect manifestation of God. He did not oppose the will of God at all with his fleshly animal nature. Instead, he let the Spirit of God just perfectly flow through him. I don't know how much I should go into right now. So we see now, if you imagine God as a being, as we are, and we're a cell. Okay, say we're a cell, and God creates all the physical things. All right, now, so God is creating something here on this planet, and He tells us a little bit about the future, and He says that in the future that the knowledge of the glory of God will fill all of the oh, I can't think of the exact quote right now. It will fill the earth. The earth will be filled with the knowledge of the glory of God. And that is God's intent. And when he told Moses, Moses asked God, when he was talking to him before he went and freed the children of Israel and took them out of Egypt, he asked God, now, who should I tell these people? Who should I say sent me? And God gives him a name. The name is, well, closest we can come to pronouncing it, Yahweh. The name is Yahweh, and this word doesn't have a time tense to it, present, past, or future. But he says, this is my name for a generation, for what is to be generated. This is God's name for the future. He who will be. It, the word can, just the Hebrew word can be used as was, is, will be. But he by giving this time sense of this future generation, so it put it with the future tense, so that Yahweh means he who will be. Now, we see God called in the Bible different things. Yahweh Elohim. Remember we were talking about, wouldn't it be nice to be one of those Elohim? He's called Yahweh Elohim. He who will be, plural, Elohim, mighty ones. He who will be mighty ones. And this is it. This is his name for this generation, what is being created here on earth. This is his name for that creation. That's it. Yeah, everything just fits together so well. The idea of name means not just a sound that somebody's called by, like we think of a name here now in our language, but in the ancient Hebrew, a name was used for what a person was known by, his character, his purpose, the things he does. So this is God's name for what is being done here on this planet. What is being done here on this planet is Elohim are being created to manifest God. We are the iron filings. We can either get in line or get out of line. If we get in line, then we will be like Jesus. And it says that we will be like him, you know. So this, and if you choose not to, see, when the Elohim were talking together, and when they created man, the Elohim were talking together and said, "Let us make man in our image, after our similitude." So now, what are the Elohim? Those who have the Spirit of God flowing through them. So we are in a similar position to the Elohim. We are similar. Now, this similarity of man to the Elohim, these Elohim, back when they said that, they were created. Man is given an ability to do more than just consume and destroy. You know, uh, any other living organism, it's born, it consumes, changes elements into other things, and then it dies. And so it's just a consumer. But we have the ability to be like the elephant. Now, there's one thing different between mankind, humanity, and all the other living creatures on this planet, and that is, well, let me see, how am I going to put this? Man has the ability. I'm making connections in my mind, and there's so many things that just fit together, and I can't bring them all together, you know, without jumping all over and probably throwing everything off. So I'm going to try to stay on a single path. So man is given the ability to work outside his programming. Your birds and plants and fish and all these things are pretty much just biological robots. They're programmed, you know, and they're programmed by the element, and they do just what they were programmed to do. But we are created different. We're made different. We are made similar to the Elohim that created us, or God created it through these Elohim, you know, and how we were created doesn't really matter. I have no problem at all with the idea of man coming from a monkey or an ape. That has absolutely no effect on, in my opinion. The Elohim can easily adjust the DNA, add DNA, combine DNA from different things. Well, mankind can do a lot of this stuff today, you know. So I'm, you know, absolutely convinced that the Elohim could have made man that way, and the Elohim could have made all of the animals that way. No problem. No problem at all. It's, the thing is that we've got to keep in mind is we have the ability. Now, I was talking about our human body being made up of all these millions or billions of other little living things. You know. Now, these little living things make up our body, they are either working in harmony with us or in disharmony with us. If a cell becomes selfish and it quits working for the body, you know, for the whole, it becomes selfish and it only just starts reproducing and consuming, we call that cancer. Now, right now, what man is on this creation is a virulent, I can't remember the word. It's a very serious cause of cancer. Man is a cancer on God's creation. But we have the ability to come into harmony with God's creation and be a functional part of it and have the power, the Spirit of God flowing through us. Now, what makes us different from the animals? As far as we know, we have a third lobe on the brain that allows us to think abstract thoughts and consider things that aren't particularly programmed. Virtually, virtually everything we do is programmed. You know, we're pretty much like all the other living organisms here on this planet, but we're given just a little bit something else that we can learn from the environment and do something absolutely, completely brand new. We have the ability to let's see how I'm trying to think just how to say this. We have the ability to initiate something new. That everything else, you know, like I'm saying, everything else is programmed. They just follow orders. They just do what they're programmed to do. And we have, I don't know, just we have free will. We that doesn't mean we don't work on our programming. Virtually everything we do is programmed, but we have the capacity for free will. We can observe things in our environment, and our programming is going to say, okay, I know I like candy. I'm going to eat candy, right? That's what your programming is saying. I want to eat candy. You got something here saying, wow, you know, I really do like that candy, but it gives me cavities, it gives me inflammation of the gut, it causes allergic reactions, it destroys my immunity system. And maybe I'll just skip the candy and do something maybe that would probably bring me more into harmony with the creation. And every single decision that we make, we've got the two poles. We've got the animal man, and we've got the Elohim. Everything. I'm looking at my picture, and every time I move my right hand, my left hand moves. But anyway, we have the Elohim, we have God, the Creator, we have man, the animal, consumer, destroyer. The devil is alive and well, and we call him humanity. You are the devil, yes. You are the devil, but you are a devil with the potential of becoming an angel or an Elohim. This was fun, and I'm sure I'm going to talk about a lot more. There's so many things that are just popping into my head as I'm talking about this, related things. It just goes from one to another. But I will try to put some thoughts together a little bit and start another one soon, another video soon.